Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Courtside Soundoff podcast today. I'm Josh Stevenson. He's Angel Ortega. Talking to you guys about a lot of stuff today. Basically, almost all of it is UFC. We got a little bit of NBA stuff. Got a little bit of boxing news at the end. But off the top, UFC 249 happened last Saturday night in the ViStar Memorial Arena in Jacksonville, Florida. No fans, obviously, but lots of fights on tap. And what ended up being delivered was, in my opinion, one of the greatest cards of the year so far, and will go down as one of the greatest cards of the year whenever the year is finished. In the main event, Justin Gaethje, in my opinion, I said it on Twitter, I'll say it here again, one of the greatest performances in a title fight in a long time. Dominating Tony Ferguson. Tony, obviously, 12-fight winning streak, hadn't lost since 2012, and Justin Gaethje made him look like a damn amateur in there. Beat him from pillar to post, finishing him in the 5th round with, by the way, something I want to give a quick shout to. His jab all night long was phenomenal. I didn't know Justin Gaethje had that much of an amazing jab, and he kept Tony Ferguson on the end of that jab all night long. Ended up finishing the fight with the jab. He hit him with that left jab. Tony, you could see like his body was just not responding. Like he started shaking his head. I think it broke his orbital. Regardless, he ended up getting the stoppage, earning the interim title along the way, and setting up potentially a fight with Khabib Nurmagomedov. Potentially, we'll get into that later. But Angel, just how surprised were you? How impressed were you by Justin Gaethje's performance?
I mean, no matter what, I knew going into that fight that it could go either way. I still believe it can. But I did reconsider picking my pick at that point. I picked Tony, but in the end, Gaethje ended up taking the win. He looked great. He looked phenomenal. I mean, technical striking aspect just looked on another level. It was so clean. It was so perfect. It just the entire night he just looked great. He in and of himself was very surprised with himself. It almost seemed like if he didn't know he had the ability to be this good, and it was really rewarding to him. You can see it at the end of the fight that he was truly kind of like happy with himself. Obviously, he's not fully content yet because he doesn't have the belt yet. He wants that fight with Khabib. He wants that belt. But I mean, he looked amazing. So I mean, kudos to him, and hopefully we get that belt soon for him, or at least attempts to get that belt for him.
Yeah, overall, I was pretty iffy on it going in about it could be either guy, but I was thinking like, man, Tony Ferguson, like I feel like fighters are going to fight a lot differently given that there's no crowd and a lot of people feed off that energy. I thought Justin Gaethje was one of the guys that feeds off that energy. I thought it would play a big role, and I actually, I picked Tony, but I even said it last week. I'm like, wouldn't it just be perfect for this fight that we've been waiting years for, to just be derailed in an empty arena by Justin Gaethje? Wouldn't that just be perfect for him to get stopped, to just ruin all MMA fans' hopes? And I picked Tony, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, that's exactly what's going to happen. And that's what did happen, except I thought it was going to be an early knockout. No, he dominated him. It wasn't even close. There were multiple 10-8 rounds in there. I'm pretty sure, like, I wrote up a piece earlier this week with KHF Press, something along the lines of, like, I found the judges' scorecards. If the fight would have not been stopped, because it got stopped at the very end of the 5th round, the scores would have been something along the lines of 50-45, 49-45, and 49-44. So he beat the shit out of Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson's one real highlight was in that 2nd round when he knocked Justin down with an uppercut at the end of the round. But outside of that, he had no real success against him. And honestly, I was completely wrong. I thought that Tony would be a guy that benefit from no crowd just because he's that type of guy that he would go fight, anywhere, honestly. That's just his type of style. Like, he's very much a guy that doesn't let that type of stuff get in his head. But I thought Justin did even better without a crowd because he's a guy that feeds off that energy. Like, and honestly, there are multiple times where he hurt Tony, but instead of going for the kill, he kind of just reset. He got back in position, and he went back to just technically beating the shit out of him. He didn't rush anything. And part of me wonders, like, if that crowd was there, would he get over involved and get into his head and just go for the finish super fast and end up getting rocked or something along those lines? So overall, one of the greatest title fight performances I've seen in a long time. The other title fight of that night, Henry Cejudo, Dominic Cruz. There was a lot of controversy coming out of this one after a kind of controversial stoppage. in the second round. But overall, I mean, what a performance by Henry Cejudo. The first guy to stop Dominic Cruz with strikes. Did you agree with the stoppage? And even if you didn't, just how impressed were you by Henry's performance? I mean, we know he was good, but beating Dominic Cruz is like next level.
I mean, he did an amazing job. I mean, from a technical aspect, I mean, just going into it, he broke him down into the legs. He worked his way up. He just started the legs, worked his way up. And I mean, I felt like Dominic never had a really good response for Henry in any aspect of the fight. And it's not because Dominic was doing a bad job, but I never saw any counters come out of him when there was any exchanges in there. You know, he tried to prevent that leg kick from happening, but it looked like it ended up hurting him more because it almost made it easier for Henry to attack the leg, and if he wasn't attacking the leg, he was attacking up top, so he was able to mix it up. So he gave Henry a lot to work with in the fight. And I think in the end, that was kind of his downfall because, I mean, he ended up getting caught up top. I mean, he was setting up a couple feints. I mean, I think there was a feint that led like a series of punches into that later on. And then obviously the knee that happened, and then we got the stoppage.
Yeah, I think you did a good job bringing up the legs there. That first round, like Dominic Cruz says, ring rust isn't real. Ring rust was a really big thing to me in that first round. He looked a lot slower than he had in the past, and his legs were getting chopped up in that first round. The second round, I actually thought Dom was turning it around. I think Cejudo still probably, I mean, he got stopped in the last 2 seconds of round number 2, so we can pretty much talk about the whole round itself. But I thought round 2 was looking a lot better. I thought he was finding a home for the right hand, and part of the reason why I feel like, okay, the stoppage, now that we've had a week to sit on it, I don't think it was that bad at all. But in my head, I feel like subconsciously I was kind of upset because I thought the fight was just starting to get good right around the time the finish happened, and it was kind of weird. At first I thought Dominic just slipped. Instead, he got hit with the knee clean, and then, Peterson kind of jumped in. Honestly, if he jumped in whenever he was on all fours getting hit in the head, it wouldn't have been an issue. But instead, he waited for Dom to get up to stop it, which was kind of strange. Regardless, disappointing one for Cruz. I had a lot of high hopes for him. I thought that he would just manage the distance well. But man, Cejudo, in hindsight, probably should have thought about the fact that he has really good leg kicks himself. And TJ Dillashaw kind of exposed the idea that you could really just go to town on Dom's legs due to his style. But regardless, a bit of a disappointing one for Cruz, but goddamn, Henry Cejudo's good. His current streak that he ended on, and if he is fully retiring, which we're going to talk about later, has to be the greatest 4-fight streak in MMA history, right? Like, I don't see any other one that could possibly top it. DJ, TJ, Moraes, Cruz. That's it. That's the greatest streak in MMA history. I mean, you could probably throw one in from Jones, throw one in from Fedor. Some of the GOATs have their own really, really good streaks, but to me, that 4-fight streak is the greatest of all time. Next fight up, a guy that should be getting a championship. We just talked about 2 championship fights. The guy that should be in the championship conversation is Francis Ngannou, old Franny, knocking out, murdering Garcia Rosenstrike inside 20 seconds. We spent like 10 minutes. I think this is the longest we spent on a fight last week, just talking about Ngannou and Rosenstrike's path to victory, and maybe Rosenstrike's being overlooked, and if he counters well, and Francis Ngannou does not give a flying fuck about anybody's analysis. He's just a big boy who likes to swing and bang. That's all he did. He took like one punch and a kick from Rosenstrike. He's like, nah, I got this, and he just ran at him, swinging wildly, and the first punch he landed knocked him out. At this point, what more does Ngannou have to do to get a title shot? It's just ridiculous. But were you surprised at all? Because I know it's hard to be surprised by Francis Ngannou at this point, but he's finding new ways to surprise people just by how fat. Like, Rosenstrike was undefeated, 10-0, and he knocked him out inside of 15 seconds. Like, how surprised were you?
I mean, I wasn't surprised, but I knew it was a possibility. I had some hope for Rosen, but at the same time, I was like, it's not going to happen, is it? And it didn't happen. But it was like, because we talked about the leg kicks, we talked about managing the distance. As soon as he got that first leg kick, he's like, oh, fuck that, I'm not taking another one of those, and went for the kill. And but shout out to Jairzinho for putting himself out there, one of the few guys who would even dare to put himself out there. And hopefully he can rebuild from this and make his way up. I mean, the guy has 11 fights in MMA in total, not necessarily UFC. So he has room to grow, room to improve. I mean, he lost to a guy who's just amazing and a freak of nature in his own right. And Jorginho should not be disappointed. I mean, he beat Alistair Overeem before that, and he just lost to Francis Ngannou. So I don't think he should be disappointed in himself. He lost to a high level opponent who probably should be the champion, if not fighting for the championship right now.
Yeah, the whole heavyweight division is pretty frustrating, and I actually saw that some of the heavyweights are starting to get pissed off at Stipe. I saw that Curtis Blades and Ben Rothwell came out, like, just kind of upset about the whole situation with him. And, I get it, because as much as people, all right, I'm gonna be the Hitler here, okay? If you guys are gonna get mad at me, then get mad at me, okay? And I've seen people like, you can't criticize Stipe, and it's like any criticism against Stipe immediately gets overthrown because he's a firefighter, and I understand that. I'm not having an issue with Stipe the person. I have an issue with Stipe the champion, and Stipe the champion has had one fight in 20 months. Like, like he last fought and here's the thing, right? People are like, oh, he had the eye injury, and it's the pandemic, he can't do anything, and he can't train, and like all other UFC fighters are somehow miraculously training, but Stipe is the one that can't. And it's one thing to be like, well, you know what, he's a paramedic and he's a firefighter, and that's fine, and I respect the hell out of him, because I would never do that, not in a million years. He's a better man than I am. But also, he has to pick whether or not he wants to be a champion, he wants to be a fighter, or if he wants to have that duty to Ohio and what he wants to do with that. Because it's not fair. People say it's not fair to criticize Stipe. It's not fair for guys like Francis Ngannou to just sit around with nothing to do. Because Francis, he's had one fight in the last 12 months, and then, you know what happened Saturday? He fought the one guy who would accept, and he knocked him out inside 20 seconds, and now he's got to wait probably another year, because Stipe said he probably won't be back until winter. So, I mean, what the fuck, man? Like, it's a terrible decision from the heavyweight division. There's no easy answer for it, but I just feel bad for Francis Ngannou.
No, fuck that, Josh. I'm about to talk for the whole heavyweight division. Stipe, you take everything they've worked for, motherfucker. They're gonna fight your fucking ass. They're the real money fight. Ngannou wants that belt.
Steven Mojic, I'm coming for your ass, motherfucker.
I'm gonna fight your fucking ass.
Am. I feel like the only thing that would, like, it's funny when Nate does it. I feel like it would be terrifying if Francis Ngannou, with his broken English, just called out Stipe Miocic like that. It would be, it's like whenever Khabib calls out people. It's terrifying.
I always think of the Michael Johnson fight, dude, when he's like, give up. I need the title fight. Give up.
He's like, I deserve it. Fucking just starts beating his ass.
Just hammer fisting him, like
Khabib is scary. Like, I remember there was one time where, like, I think it was in UFC 223, like, embedded, and he was talking directly to the camera, and he's like, why you come here? He's like, after the corner through the dog, he's like, why you come here now? Why you come here now? I fight you in Russia. And he's like just talking, and he's like during the weight cut, so he looks like a fucking Skyrim, like Jaguar or something. So he's just like just saying it, and he looks terrifying. Like, it's the broken English, dude. I'm telling you.
We love it though.
And anyways, there's other other fights that happened. Calvin Kattar murdered Jeremy Stephens. This is one of the best fights of the night, honestly. I'm so impressed with Calvin Kattar's boxing. I think pound for pound, Calvin Kattar's boxing is the best in the UFC. Like, I'm not talking striking here. I'm talking pure boxing.
I was about to ask that. I was about to say, do you think there's a difference between pure striking and boxing?
Oh, absolutely. Because, I mean, there's dudes in the UFC that have terrible. John Jones has really bad boxing. We can get into this later, but that's one of the reasons I think Francis Ngannou beats him if they fight. He has really bad boxing in terms of boxing defense, and his chin bails him out a lot of the time, and he's really bad. But you know what he is good at? He's good at gauging the distance, using those kicks to keep people off of him, using elbows when they step in. He's very creative, but his boxing, just a straight up pure, his fists and his defense and stuff like that, it's terrible. But guess what? Doesn't matter. Man,
we can't all be Izzy.
Yeah, I mean, shit. Izzy's a kickboxer, but you know what I'm saying here. Pound for pound boxing wise, Calvin Kattar is a bad motherfucker, man. I think he's right there at the top. Like, I don't see who else would be right there with him, honestly.
No, you're right.
Hell of a win there, man. Like, that was. I need to rewatch the entire card. I think I might do that after we finish here. I've rewatched most of the fights on the card. I think I might rewatch the entire card itself, not like the prelims, obviously, Jesus Christ, but the main card, because that was probably one of the best fights of the night, honestly. So shout out Calvin Kattar. Yeah, do you have any thoughts on that one?
Dude, absolutely disgusting. He murdered the man. It was, oh boy, that elbow. Oh boy, it was great.
Where does Jeremy Stephens go from here? Because we talked about it last week about like
it's bad.
He hadn't won in 4 fights. Now it's number 5, and he just got knocked out.
It's bad. I don't know what you can do. I mean, you gotta fight like some nobodies and build their way back up. But even then, it's like it's too late, right? Like you can't rebuild from this at this point in his career, can he?
I mean, I don't personally think so. But also, there's other fighters that we can kind of get like talk to like about that whole conversation about is it too late for them. Cowboy's another one, which I think we'll probably talk about that fight in a minute. But as for the last fight on the main card, Greg Hardy, Yorgan De Castro, your boy Greg Hardy, Angel, your boy. As
I know, right? I know, right? Call me out on it.
Listen, I got to give the man full credit. I was really excited for Yorgan De Castro, and I thought in that first round Yorgan was tuning him up. Like I really thought. I mean, he was nearly took out his leg in that first round. I was like, God damn, Yorgan De Castro is putting in that work. Like I was worried about him because I'm like, you know what? He's the much smaller guy. He's less experienced. But Greg Hardy in that second round, he checked that kick, and that was all it took. He checked.
Listen to DC, bro. He listened to DC.
He listened to DC. You know what the thing about Greg Hardy is? People hate the man, and I get it. You know, he allegedly, beat up his girlfriend.
But there's a lot of allegations in the world. I mean, allegedly OJ killed, 2 people. Allegedly Kobe raped a girl. Allegedly Michael Jackson, diddled a kid. There's so many allegations in this world, we just don't ever really know.
But OJ was found guilty. Like he was not found guilty in the criminal system, but he was found guilty in the what's it called whenever it's for money? Civil court?
Sure, let's just say that.
Yes, he was found guilty in civil court. So, I mean, at least that's something. We know but Kobe and Michael Jackson, I'm not going there. They're dead. I'm not famous enough to get away with saying that shit, bro. I don't have that much clout. I can't get away with saying that.
You need some more clout tokens to get away with it?
You do, bro. Like, you gotta be, like, really high up there. I'm not famous enough for people to give a shit about me. I'm just immediately, I'd be screwed. I'd be canceled.
Cancel culture. We can get into that later.
But anyway, Greg Hardy. You know what? People hate the guy. He's a good MMA fighter. He's a really good MMA fighter, right? I mean, he's training out of a good team. He made his professional debut not even 2 years ago. June of 2018, Greg Hardy started fighting. Here he is, 8 fights later. Well, technically 9. He should be 7-2, but the whole inhaler situation. A commission member, I thought he got screwed on that, by the way. A commission member told him that he could use it, but the commission member wasn't a part of USADA.
He could be 8-0 realistically.
I mean, if Alan Crowder's leg was up, then yes, that would. He's inches away from being like what 8-1.
Yeah.
Because the Volkov one, he wasn't winning anyway.
Okay. I completely forgot about Volkov. Never mind. But yeah, he could be 8-1. He could be. Yeah. He could be 8-1.
But yeah, if he doesn't throw that stupid knee against Crowder, he probably wins that. And then if the Sassoli fight, if he doesn't, he talked to like the wrong commission member about using his inhaler, and then it got overturned. I thought it was pretty screwed up, but whatever. He's a damn good fighter, and the Yorgan one's the one that turned me because he beat 3 cans to get into the UFC, whatever. The Crowder fight, he looked bad, but he was winning before the knee. The Dmitry Skolikov win doesn't mean anything. Juan Adams, I was impressed at the time, but Juan Adams now is out of the UFC, got knocked out 3 times in a row, whatever. Ben Sassoli doesn't mean anything. The guy's like 5'9", got knocked out in his last fight. Alexander Volkov, he went 3 rounds and with him, did nothing. That fight was so forgettable that you literally just forgot it happened, and so do I most of the time.
But I thought that fight was good for him. We talked about it at the time. I think him fighting here's the thing about Volkov was a champion before he entered the UFC. Volkov was probably going to get a title. Oh, yeah. Volkov was going to have a title shot if he doesn't lose to Derek Lewis in the very last minute and would have fought that title. We don't know what he would have done in that fight, but we can imagine, right? And Volkov's a very talented, individual. And the fact that Greg Hardy went all those rounds with him, sure, he lost it, he got outpointed, but he wasn't finished. He was still doing his best. Like, I feel like that shows potential there. I mean, we talk about every time he's fought, we talk about him like he's so raw. Like, there's still so much there to work with. but he's getting better.
Yeah. And the Volkov, listen, that fight was super forgettable, and not a whole lot happened, and he didn't have much success. However, I do agree with you that for him to improve, he has to get in there with somebody like a Volkov. Maybe not like a Volkov, because Volkov's a super amazing striker that's going to keep him on the outside range.
And super tall.
Super tall, But regardless, even being in there and, like, fighting against a guy of that magnitude of, I mean, what is he ranked? Volkov's like, I don't know if he's ranked in the top 5, but if he's not, he should be.
He probably is. I'm on it.
Yeah.
7.
That's ridiculous. Who's in front of him?
Jorginho, Derek Lewis, Junior Dos Santos, Curtis Blades, Ngannou, DC.
I really only think that Ngannou, DC, and Blade should be in front of him. I have no idea why Lewis. Well, I get Lewis because he knocked him out. But regardless, Jorginho, and especially JDS, considering JDS has been dominated twice now in a row. Regardless, thing about Greg Hardy is he needs to get in there with that guy, a top 5, top 7 guy, to kind of improve. And listen, the Jorgen one is the one that's turning me. Because before I said Greg Hardy, he's not. He's just a really powerful guy. He's got the NFL speed. He's very powerful. The Oregon one turned me. He didn't have the inhaler bullshit. He didn't have – it wasn't just a really quick, weird knockout like the Smolikov or Juan Adams fight. He just went out there and he had a really bad first round, and he made the mid-fight adjustments, and he turned it around, and he got the decision win. That's impressive to me. That's good.
Now, did you listen to his interview afterwards?
The one where he credited DC?
Well, not even just that, like where he's like, I want to fight again. I want to keep improving. I want to fight number 15. I want to work my way up the list. I want to, he's like, I want to fight at Fight Island. Like if Fight Island's next week, I want to fight at Fight Island. I want to live on Fight Island and fight every week.
Dude, I did hear that. I believe him too. Because you can look at his thing. He fought what, 5 times in 2019?
Now I want to ask. At this time, number 15, which is no rank, is Fabricio Verdum. I wouldn't want that fight for him just because Fabricio's such like. He's not back at all, but I think that'd be a very hard fight for Greg Hardy.
I really don't want to bash someone after one fight after 2.5 years off. Fabricio Verdum looked. I actually thought he won. Let me say that. He still looked terrible. Like he looked really bad. Can we be real about this for a minute here? Because I was super surprised at how bad Fabricio looked. Like, he went from knocking out Mark Hunt when he left and submitting Cain Velasquez and, knocking down Alistair Overeem to being horrifically out. Not even close. On the feet, he got outstruck terribly by Alexei Oleinik, which Alexei Oleinik is a terrible striker. And that's the nicest way to put it. Like, he's underrated actually at times with his wingy punches, but Fabricio, this should have been a cakewalk for him. I honestly think Greg Hardy might be able to beat Fabricio Verdum.
Well, I'll tell you number 14 and 13. At this time, it's Sergey Pavlovich and Augusto Sakai, who are both on Augusto on 3, and then Sergey's on a 2 because he lost to Alistair a while back. But, Sergey's very young, and I'll let that one slide because it's Alistair, The Ream is still good.
You know what? Actually, just looking at the top 15, I actually think Fabricio is the only one who Greg Hardy can beat.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying.
Maybe Alexei, because Alexei's a lot slower, and he's extremely slow for a heavyweight. I could see Greg Hardy sparking him.
How do you feel about the Ivanov fight? Ivanov just lost, right? I'm pretty sure he's on. I'm pretty sure he's on a losing streak.
Honestly, I think. Let me see Blagoy right now, because Blagoy is a pretty underrated guy. Like, he had the really bad debut against.
He just lost to Derek.
That's right. Yeah.
He beat Tai Tuivasa before that, which he said he was going to do, and then before that he beat Ben Rothwell, who Ben Rothwell just won his most recent fight.
I honestly think that I think he loses to Ivanov. I think Ivanov just out-grapples him.
I mean, that's the one thing that I'm worried about. Like when these guys don't have like a super like a specialty like Greg yet, like it's just like that's why I don't want him to fight Fabricio, because like Fabricio's gonna probably annihilate him on the ground if he goes to the ground. Ivanov, if he's gonna wrestle fuck him. Alexei, if he gets his hand on him, he's gonna choke him out. like standing up probably.
I just really want to see him on the ground because we've not seen him on the ground like at all really. So I want to see him get on the ground and just see how he deals with that overall. But yeah, out of the top 15, I think he should fight Fabricio next, honestly.
That's a
But
crazy fight.
I guess we just spent a lot of time on this, but overall, yeah, I was impressed with Greg Hardy.
Yes, sir.
Was there any fight on the undercard that you want to talk about? Because I thought there was a lot of takeaways from a lot of those fights.
Oh, there's so many good fights. I mean, can I highlight two?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so Nico Price, Luque, amazing fight.
Oh my God, I love those boys.
And then Bryce Mitchell absolutely destroying Charles Rosa on the ground. I thought that was amazing too.
Yeah, Nico Price, friend of the podcast, Nico Price, follows me on Twitter. Should try and get him on actually, but I don't know if I'll go for that. Anyways, that fight was amazing. I told people that was going to be, probably fight of the night. I still don't know how Justin and Tony got it. Like, I understand that.
I don't know. I'm not a fan of that. I wouldn't agree with that.
I'm not either. I mean, that one, outside of the knockdown for Tony, that was a one-sided beatdown, and Justin was swinging the hammer, all right? There wasn't much competitiveness in that fight. But Luque, Nico, that one was back and forth, and I told people, man, that fight's going to be amazing. And, I mean, I understand it was a doctor stoppage, which some people hate, but Nico is going to get knocked out even if that was not a doctor stoppage. He was done in that third round after that left hook by Luque. Luque, man, goddamn, I could watch those guys fight all day because they had a really good first fight too, if I remember correctly. And I know that Nico lost in that one too, but goddamn, Luque and Nico are two of the most underrated guys in the welterweight division. Those guys are just dogs. Bryce Mitchell, Charles Rosa, man. Bryce Mitchell has to be the most impressed I've been with a prospect in a long time. Featherweight 13-0. Technically, he had a loss in the Ultimate Fighter, but it's an exhibition, so who cares? He's like 4-0 in the UFC, I think, and I wasn't really – the Charles Rosa one is the one that puts it over for me because his other wins were pretty decent. Bobby Moffett, Matt Sales, they're okay wins. Charles Rosa is a legitimate black belt. He's been around in the game for a long time now. I think he's been fighting the UFC since 2014, 2013. And generally speaking, if you can get by him, you're going to be you have high hopes. His only loss in the UFC, Dennis Siver, Yair Rodriguez, Shane Burgos, and now Bryce Mitchell. All four of those are pretty damn good guys that would go on to be ranked. He also has wins over Kyle Bochniak and Manny Bermudez. So he has some good wins as well. Overall, man, I was so impressed by that kid. I love me some Bryce Mitchell. On the ground, he's a savant. Like, it's just, that was the most lopsided fight I've seen in a long time. 30-24, all across the board. 10-8 every single round. Real quick, I want to highlight, we talked about actually almost all the fights on this card. Because we talked about Oleinik and Verdum, we talked about Luque Price and Mitchell, Rosa. The other one that we did not talk about that I wanted to highlight, Anthony Pettis, Donald Cerrone. This one is so weird because it's very rare that I come out of the fight looking at the loser and being more impressed. Because Donald Cerrone, he was coming in with something to prove. And let me be clear here. This is a pretty controversial one. I thought Pettis won. I thought Pettis took rounds 2 and 3. I thought round 2 was pretty clear, and I thought
Chael Sonnen would disagree with you, my guy.
Chael says a lot of things.
He does. He thought Cowboy won all 3 rounds.
That's insane to me. I'm not sure. We can argue Cowboy 1 and 3. We can argue that because round 1 was clear Cowboy. Round 3 is debatable because Cowboy had the head kick and Pettis had the big flurry, so they each had their moments. But also, I don't understand how you can watch round 2 and think, yeah, Donald Cerrone, he won that round. Like, I don't get that at all. But I mean, whatever. I guess Chael knows more than I do, but I disagree there. Anyways, did you agree? Because I thought that was actually 2 things. Did you agree with the decision, and were you impressed with Cowboy Cerrone? Because obviously he'd been knocked out 3 times in a row, and honestly, it seemed like he was done. It seemed like he was pretty washed. Instead, he comes out and he has a pretty damn good performance.
Yes and yes. I mean, like I talked about it last time. You got to think about it, dude. The level of opponent Cowboy has fought his last 5 fights, Al Quinta, Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje, Conor McGregor, Anthony Pettis, he's losing the top tier, and I can't even hate on him. It's obviously he's getting he's getting knocked out, he's getting stopped. I mean, they've all been stopped. I mean, I don't think he got knocked out at all, except the Gaethje one. I think that one was probably he might have been out in that one, but it got stopped too. Thing is, it's Cowboy impresses me no matter what, dude. Cowboy maybe hasn't been in all those fights, but Cowboy has fought all those guys, stepped up to the plate, and faced there's no one else in the UFC right now who has a streak like that of fights of fighting people at that high of a level constantly. The only person is probably Henry because of his fight win streak with DJ, TJ, Dominic, and who am I forgetting? And Merlin, And even then, Henry just retired. So who else is in the UFC with a crazy streak like that? Probably Jones, and that's about it.
It's funny how you said nobody, and I was immediately about to pop in and be Henry, and then you said Henry. I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah, he has a crazy streak, but also, y'all must have forgot, and as Roy Jones would say, y'all must have forgot. I did. I thought he was done. And it's not even that he was facing tough opponents, because he was absolutely facing tough opponents, but it's how he was losing to me. He got, the Tony one, debatable, because he had a really good first round, and the second round was pretty back and forth. He got hit after the bell, and he couldn't continue. That one should have arguably been a DQ, but whatever. Justin Gaethje won that one. Gaethje's a quick starter. He's a current interim lightweight champion, but he got annihilated. Conor, again, annihilated.
That was bad. That was
really bad. That one was terrible.
Shoulder hit, dude. That's
he
embarrassing.
He broke his orbital and his nose in 40 seconds, and I'm not even sure how that's possible. Yeah, man, but honestly, you almost forgot. I was happy for Donald, but he still lost. I thought Pettis was the right decision, but it was less flashy. It wasn't as flashy because he was throwing a lot of combinations. He was throwing a lot of stuff, but Pettis was more accurate. He had a lot more on his punches too. It seemed like anytime he was landing clean on Cowboy, it was pushing him back, and it was really significant. I don't know what's next for either one of these guys, but yeah, man, I'm happy for both of them because I thought they both needed something good. And even though Cowboy didn't get the win, he put himself back on the map, which is important.
God.
So coming out of UFC 249, there was a lot of stuff. We just talked about a lot, but there's two things that I want to talk about also. Henry Cejudo, obviously, he retired after beating Dominic Cruz. A lot of people were like, oh, it's just a negotiation tactic, and it seemed like Henry was kind of saying, you know what, unless they give me that $1 million, that's $2 million, I am done. And they're not going to give it to him. As much as people think Henry's the biggest star, Henry's a star for MMA world. He's a star for the UFC world. But he's not a casual star. Very few guys can command the $2 to $3 million range. Henry Cejudo, sadly, is not one of those guys. That's just the harsh reality of it. So I think he's done. I think unless he gets that multi-million-dollar contract, he's done. Where does he rank in the GOAT conversation? Because I feel like for me personally, he's in the top 10. I feel like if he fought more, it seemed like we're just seeing Henry hit his peak too, which is what really sucks about it because, obviously after that Benavidez loss, he just went on a tear and it looked like he was improving rapidly. I think the Henry Cejudo that beat up Dominic Cruz might be the greatest bantamweight we'd ever seen. So it's just, he was improving vastly and he was improving rapidly. Just how surprised were you by his retirement, but also where does he rank overall in terms of history?
You know what? I'm going to be 100% realistic with you. I haven't been watching MMA that long. There's people who've been watching this sport for over a decade now, and and the sport is very young, and it only dates back to maybe the early, late to mid 90s, right? As the origin starts, right, back in Japan. And then
depends
forward.
on how technical you want to get with it, but
yeah, I've seen a video. It goes pretty far. It could go farther back than that. But as far as
in terms of organizations, Pancrase was the first one in 93, I think.
But no, we had the whole wrestling shoot fighter thing. But that's a whole story for another day,
Yeah.
But he has to be up there. The opponent. I mean, Dominic Cruz probably, you know, just depends where you want to put him at this point. The greatest bantamweight of all time, if not. We had, Demetrius Johnson, who can also, also be arguably the greatest, bantamweight of all time, and is still fighting right now, and probably should have fought Henry for the third trilogy fight just because they're one-on-one at each other. Yeah. And now we have Henry, who ended on, his last fights were like the craziest thing in the world. I mean, who else? Who else in the UFC is gonna string a number of opponents like that? Like. It's so wild and beyond me, and it's such an impressive thing, and it's such a beautiful performance, and it's so sad to see him go because I thought we were just getting started. At least that's how I felt, because I was like, okay, now we're getting names. You want Jose Aldo, bam, that's another name in your legacy. You're gonna take out one of these young guys, Aljamain, Peter, whoever it's gonna be, gonna fight one of those guys. He's gonna take out some of those guys, and whoever came at him, and I thought there was still more fight in him. Going forward, but I guess money's an issue right now, and we won't get that. I still think I know ONE FC has been handing out money like it's nothing in the past. If we could do a one-off fight with DJ and Henry, I'd love to see that. That's all I'm gonna say. I will campaign for that fight so hard. I want that fight so bad.
But, even if he does come back, he'd still be a member of the UFC unless the UFC trades him, which I don't think they're gonna do.
No.
I shouldn't see that happening, but yeah, in terms of GOAT conversation, for me, he's up there, man. And like I mentioned, I feel like we were just getting started, because he's been around in the game for a while, but he was just hitting his peak, man. That's what sucks so much about this. But overall, I think he's done. A lot of people think he's just doing for contract. I think he's done. Listening to DC talk about it, he wants to start a family. He's getting into real estate. And Henry Cejudo, for him, he has no problem going out on top. He won gold at the 2008 Olympics, and he ended as the gold medalist. He didn't come back for 2012. He didn't want to make another run. He was like, all right, I've accomplished this. All I need to do. I'm done. So I think he's done. In terms of other stuff to talk about, and I want to nip this one in the bud right now. I don't want to see Gaethje versus Conor next, but is that what you think is going to happen? Because Gaethje versus Conor, this seems like the perfect opportunity for the UFC. Conor McGregor, him and Gaethje were supposed to fight this summer. Gaethje stepped up on short notice, won the title. Could you imagine a Gaethje-Conor fight on Fight Island in July? How big that would do? Or do you think the UFC is going to wait and do Gaethje versus Khabib? Which one do you think is actually going to happen? Not what you want, but what do you think is going to happen?
I can see UFC milking this so hard and getting one more fight out of Gaethje. And then obviously, him fighting Conor. But man, let me tell you this. The way I see it is the Gaethje Conor fight makes so much money right now because Gaethje has all these eyes of these new people. Oh well, I got to keep up with this guy. It's interesting. Obviously, all the non-casual fans. Well, shit. This is it's Conor versus Gaethje. How could I not watch? But then at the same time, Khabib versus Justin is first of all, as a generality, you have an American guy and a Russian guy fighting. That's just money made, for a fight. People will buy it just to support an American, because they want to support Gaethje and they want to see this Russian guy lose. He's undefeated. You have this American kid, wrestler. It's just a perfect story to have, the general public behind. And could probably make some pretty decent money out of it.
Yeah, they can make a lot of money if they want to when it comes to this. I don't know, man. I really hope they just do Gaethje Khabib. I think the answer is Conor Nate 3 on Fight Island. I think that's the answer, honestly. I think that would be huge.
I don't want that to happen, though. I don't want that.
Listen, I don't know what Conor wants, man. He could have fought Gaethje back in January, and he decided to fight Cowboy. I don't know what he wants to do.
Well, remember when he said he wanted to treat this year it's not gonna happen anymore.
Like a season, yeah.
Like a season, he was gonna, build his way up. He's gonna fight the guys he needs to fight. And Cowboy was ranked at the top. That made the fight kind of made sense ranking wise. Gaethje probably would have been the fight to make. I remember saying if Conor comes back, Conor needs to fight Gaethje because then Conor gets the next title shot probably no matter what.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, Gaethje's a interim champion. He should be fighting for the real title. But it's like, is the UFC want to do that? Are they gonna take that opportunity away from Gaethje by making him fight Conor? And obviously, if he fights Conor and beats Conor, it's kind of like, well, there's no argument now. And then Conor's like way out of the conversation now, and he has to rebuild again. So, I mean, for the benefit of Gaethje, he should probably have that fight against Khabib as soon as possible. For Conor, he would want to ideally fight Gaethje and get his chance at Gaethje, and then get his chance at Khabib. But then a lot of things would get slowed down. I think there's no perfect way to do it. I mean, whatever happens, happens. But ideally, I think the best way is just letting Gaethje get his fight against Khabib, and whatever happens, happens from there.
That's the way I feel about it. Yeah, I think Conor's going to be back, though. I mean, regardless of who the opponent is, I think he's totally going to be back in July, or at the very least this summer. I just don't think that fight's going to be against Gaethje. That's the way I think. But also, there was another UFC. I'll be straight up with you. I'm starting to get burnt out by the end of this week. I think they should have spaced out these cards a little bit more.
Same.
But regardless, 3 UFC cards this week, the second of which we're about to talk about. We gave our predictions last week for the main and co-main. Glover Teixeira, the 41-year-old Glover Teixeira. I think he actually might only be 40. I don't want to add the extra year, but regardless, the over 40 Glover Teixeira beating the shit out of Anthony Smith. There's no other way to say it. He dominated this man from pillar to post. After round 2, it wasn't even a contest. He finished him in round 5. A couple of things. Is this the worst MMA? Is this the worst stoppage of all time? Because Anthony Smith, the official list, broken orbital, broken nose, 2 lost teeth, and a bunch of other stuff. He got dominated. The final 2 rounds were 10-8 rounds. He looked good before that, but is it the worst MMA stoppage of all time? And also, how impressed by you are Glover? How impressed are you by Glover Teixeira? I mean, he's over the age of 40. People thought he was done years ago after the loss to Corey Anderson. Yet here he is. He's on the verge of a title shot, bro.
You know something? I'm so mad because I looked back and I was like, man, Glover's really about to win this. But I picked Anthony, because I just wanted to ride that wave of the home invader thing. Anthony was with it. He had something to prove himself. He said he fought the hardest fight of his career because it was a real fight. He was fighting for his actual life in that moment. So I thought there was some good poetic, stuff going on there. So I'm like, let's go Anthony, But in the back of my head, I knew Glover was probably the correct choice. That ended up working like that. Now Glover's on the verge of getting a title shot and fighting Jon Jones once again.
Yeah, he's right there, bro. He really is, which is crazy to think about because I'm one of those people that was writing about Glover's demise years ago. I thought after there was a 3-4 fight stretch there. He got knocked out by Rumble. He got dominated by Gus. And then I know he won one fight in between, and then Corey Anderson 30-26'd him. And I'm like, this man's done. He's done. And yet here he is, and it's out of nowhere seemingly. He slowly built up a 3-fight winning streak. I know he was on the prelims for all 3 of his fights, or I don't know if he's on the prelims, but he wasn't advertised. He wasn't a big star on any 3 of the fight cards that he won. But shit, man, he won, a bunch of fights in a row. He choked out Carl Robertson, he is a middleweight, so I'll give him, it's kind of iffy. He was a late replacement. Ion Cutelaba, though, that's a straight up damn good win. He choked him out too. And then he beat Nikita Krylov, who's actually a really good ranked guy. So going in that Anthony Smith one, I was like, you know what, man, I think he's going to get him out of there. He's been through so much, I think he's going to beat him. And then, round 1 and 2, I thought Anthony Smith looked the greatest he's ever looked in a fight. I'll say that straight up. The thing about Anthony Smith is, if he doesn't get the finish, pretty early, probably screwed. But regardless, on the feet, he was tuning him up, man. On the feet, he looked phenomenal. Straight up, he looked so damn good. But you know what, man? That 3rd round, he broke his orbital with that uppercut. That kind of that. I don't know if it's uppercut or left hook. I don't remember. And then he hit him with that. And after that, it was over. And he got his ass kicked for the next 2 rounds. I'm so impressed by Glover Teixeira, man. He deserves that title shot. Not next. Let me be very clear about that. Dominic Reyes should be fighting for the title. Dominic Reyes should be light heavyweight champion right now. But I think he should fight Jan next for the title shot after that. But there's a lot of moving and shaking in the light heavyweight division. Also in the heavyweight division, Ben Rothwell in the co-main event defeating Ovince St. Preux, who was making his heavyweight debut. OSP looked like a heavyweight in there. I think it was 241. Overall, a meh fight. I thought Ben did really, really well in the first and second round, but OSP knocked him down at the end of the second, and then he knocked him down again at the end of the third. Was it the right call? It was a split decision, but overall, most people didn't care. Who did you score for?
I didn't even care for the fight, man. I'll tell you that. I wasn't even that big of a thing. I was not into it at all.
Yeah, so that's fair.
I was not into it at all. This card was very mixed match for me. I was there for Glover and Anthony pretty much only just because I wanted to talk about the main event.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I scored it for OSP, but I guess it just really didn't matter. It was a bad fight. It was a really bad fight.
It was a bad fight. Like, I looked at it a little bit and I'm like, no.
But it made me mad. It made me mad because I'm like, OSP, whenever he was swinging, he was connecting. But he was so scared of Rothwell's power that he didn't swing outside of the end of the round.
Can you blame him?
I don't know. I don't blame him, but it was infuriating. Was there any other fight on that undercard that you want to talk about in terms of, like...
Dude, Andrei Arlovski won a fight.
Dude, here's the thing, right? Arlovski has been and it's so easy to forget because I think Arlovski's not even that old. I think he's 41. He just turned 41. Andrei Arlovski has been fighting in the UFC since 2000. He has literally been fighting for 20 years in the UFC. And it seems like every time that we think he's done, right? He lost, like, he got cut from the UFC at one point, and then he came back, and he almost got a title shot, and he should have, but then he lost to Stipe, and then he lost 5 in a row, and then he beat, 2 in a row to get back into ranked, and then he lost 4 in a row, and now here he is. He's won 2 of 3, and his only loss is the Argentino Rosenstrike, and Felipe Lins is a legit heavyweight. He's a legit, like, he won the PFL tournament last year. Andrei Arlovski won't fucking die. Like, he won't go away, dude. It's ridiculous. I love the man. Other fights to talk about. Drew Dober looked phenomenal. Ricky Simon got a much-needed win over Ray Borg. And the most predictable of the fights, Thiago Moises versus Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson looked dominant in that first round.
Oh, God.
And then immediately got submitted in the second. It was the most Michael. It's not even funny at this point. It's not funny. It's just it's so predictable. Like I have no words at this point. And I love Michael Johnson, dude.
He's been fighting for a decade, bro.
he has wins over fucking Tony Ferguson, Joe Lozon, Gleison Tebow, Melvin Gillard, Edson Barboza, Dustin Poirier, Andre Fili, and then like Josh Emmett, like, he dominated, and then he got knocked out in the third round. Justin Gaethje, he nearly knocked out and then lost in the second round. Darren Elkins, he dominated and lost in the second round. I thought he beat Steve Ray last time out, and he lost via decision. And then Thiago Moises, he was dominating, and then he got submitted with a fucking heel hook. And nobody gets submitted. When was the last time you saw a heel hook submission, bro?
Never.
They're incredibly rare, and guess what? Everybody goes for him, but nobody gets him, and Michael Johnson's the guy that they got him on. So I don't even know what to say.
He's only been submitted twice in his career, Habib and him. The Kimura by Habib, and then the heel hook by this man.
Yeah, man, it's just I feel bad for the guy.
Actually, within recent time, I not with that, like, not UFC, ever. Yeah.
Damn, I feel bad for him, but. The third of the final card, like, you know what's crazy, man? We still got like half this podcast to go, and we've been talking for almost an hour. Anyways, UFC Florida, the main and co-main, which, always counts towards our picks. Angel's currently in the lead, but we lost. We both went 0-2 last week.
It was bad.
Yeah, it was real bad. Alistair Overeem versus Walt Harris. Walt Harris back after obviously the tragedy involving his stepdaughter, which is being used as promotion by ESPN, which I think is pretty scummy, but that's something we're not going to talk about. Anyways, Reem Harris, both guys. Reem coming off the devastating knockout loss. Walt Harris has won 4 in a row. Close one for me to pick, but who do you got?
I actually picked Walt Harris. Now, let me tell you this right now. This fight, dude, the last time Reem lost in the, like, by decision was 15 years ago. Do you know this?
I actually do not know that.
I looked this up. The last time he lost to the decision was 15 years ago. Walt Harris has not won a fight going to decision ever in his career. They've all been knockouts, TKOs, however you want to word it. The last time Overeem, won a fight via decision was 5 years ago. Someone's getting knocked the fuck out. And I picked Walt Harris because recently, dude, Overeem with these heavy hitters, bro. Not, he Sergey Pavlovich, I consider a heavy hitter, but Curtis Blades, Ngannou, Jairzinho, within the last 5 fights, he lost to all those guys, and I think all those guys are pretty heavy hitters, hit pretty hard, heavy hands. I consider Walt Harris to be one of those guys too, so I go with Walt Harris.
Yeah, I'm also going with Walt Harris. This is a really close one to pick for me. But overall, I just think the dude hits so fucking hard. It's really hard for me to overlook that. But Reem, his kind of style of turning and running, and if he tries to grapple like he did against Jairzinho, he may have some success. He's an underrated grappler. But it's not like Walt Harris is just some shitty dude on the ground. Like, he's pretty good in his own right. Regardless of, I'm taking Walt Harris. I think I've been so impressed with him lately. Like, he's beating dudes in seconds. The Daniel Spitz win was pretty good. Daniel Spitz isn't too much to write home about, but Sergey Spivak, that was a damn good knockout, and the Oleinik one was the big one. He decimated Oleinik in seconds. And obviously, he also beat Orlovsky via split decision, but that one was overturned. I'm taking Harris here. I would not be surprised if Overeem won at all. It just seems like the MMA gods are... I think they're going to give Walt Harris one, man. I really think they are. Claudia Gadelha, Angela Hill. This is one of my most looked forward to fights on the card. I've been touting Angela Hill ever since she came back from Invicta. It's been a mixed bag since she's came back from Invicta, but her current streak, she's looked probably the greatest in her career. She's won 3 in a row, all of which are short notice. She fought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She's fought 6 times in the last calendar year and has won 3 in a row. And Claudia Gadelha, she's won 2 of her last 3. Most people thought she lost the Esparza fight. She clearly lost the Ansaroff fight, and the Marcos fight wasn't anything to write home about. I think Angela Hill is going to beat her, man. I'm taking the upset here. I'm huge on Angela Hill. I think Claudia Gadelha, she's been in some fucking wars, man, and I think it's going to start. I think it's starting to wear down on her. I'm going to take Angela Hill for the upset here, bro.
I have Angela Hill too, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
It's rare when we agree.
I really like, I like Claudia for my own reasons, right? But
oh, Jesus Christ.
In all seriousness, I'm picking Angela Hill here too, dude.
Yeah, I'm really high on her. She's looked phenomenal as of late, and I would be surprised if Claudia won. Maybe she can get right back into that title picture, because I think Claudia versus Weili Zhang would be a really fun fight. But I don't think she's going to get there. I think Angela Hill beats her. Any other fights on the undercard you want to talk about in terms of, star power or anything that's intriguing to you?
Oh, boy. Let me see. Is there anybody I like to highlight? The return. Our boy Eric Anders comes back.
Ooh.
He's back. Last time out, the Khalil Roundtree fight, wasn't the prettiest thing. And then after that, he strung 2 wins together. So hopefully he can carry that same energy. Because, Khalil came back and we were like, Khalil's killing it, man. Khalil was going to be this amazing thing. He went to Thailand. He's no, it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
No. Bangkok Roundtree lasted all of 1 fight, but I was so hyped for it.
Dude, and I thought Eric was going to win that fight going into it. But Eric's back. Let's see, can he make it 3? Hopefully he can put himself in that conversation that, make his way up the rankings.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see him win, but I'm actually taking Jocko in that one. I think Krzysztof Jocko. He's been around the game. I think they're just going to outpoint him. Edson Barboza's featherweight debut against Dan Ige, that's going to be a banger right there. If the weight cut hasn't drained Edson Barboza too much, I could easily see him winning that one, but Dan Ige hits hard as hell, man. He's on a tear, and I'm going to take Dan Ige. He's on 4 in a row. I think Barboza going down is a bit of a mistake. He looked pretty drained. I'm not sure how he made 145 even, but the one I want to point out here, Darren Elkins to Nate Landwehr is going to be phenomenal. That one's just going to be a banger. It's on the early prelims. Darren Elkins lost a couple in a row. Nate Landwehr isn't much to write home about. That one, those guys just go in there and bang. So if we want a fun fight, that will be good. Cheeto Vera Song Yadong is another one to point out. Whew. All right. That's all of UFC for this week. After Saturday night, we'll have to wait until the 30th for another card, and after that, we'll be back on regular schedule. But now we're on to the NBA talk, and after that, a little bit of boxing before we wrap up. NBA training facilities are opening up. There's not much to talk about here outside of the fact that this seems to kind of signify a return that will, be coming in terms of Silver talking, and you seeing Chris Paul and other players come out and talking, hoping for a return to the league, almost saying that there will be a return. I think we're going to get it, man. You and I have been pretty vocal. I think we talked about enough about the potential return so we don't have to spend much time on this topic. But yeah, man, it seems like it's going to happen, which is honestly awesome. I'm pretty sure we all want to see the return of basketball, and it seems like it's going to happen. And I feel like it's different because for a long time with the NBA, mum was the word, and they weren't saying anything about, we'll come back this time. We'll talk about it this time. It seemed they were getting very small updates, and it didn't seem like they were moving a whole lot. NHL was talking more. MLB was talking more. The NFL does not give a damn, apparently. NFL is still going about their day, bro, which is fascinating to me. They're pretending that everything's normal. They're hoping that everything's going to be cleared up by August and September, which I personally don't think it will be. Not 100%, but anyways, the NBA training facilities are opening up. I saw the Lakers open theirs, despite the fact that LA County is under lockdown until August, which I'm going to leave my personal thoughts myself on that one. But yeah, man, it seems like we're getting there. I'm really excited about it. Obviously, me and Angel talked about this quite a bit, but if they're going to come back, it has to be in the playoffs. It just doesn't make everything else will get messed up if they just start. And also, you'd be bringing in teams that, generally speaking, don't have much potential to even get in there, get in the playoffs anyways. The only ones that would be even close probably to the Blazers, and they're 4 games out with 16 games left. I think they should start in the playoffs, and it sucks for the other teams. That's the way it needs to be. It keeps other teams away, which would not be involved, and it cuts down on the people, and we can start in the playoffs and get everything back to normal. Angel, any thoughts on the training facilities opening up and kind of signifying the return that the NBA might be coming back?
Exciting stuff, man. We all want playoff basketball. Whether or not that will happen is still in the blue, still in the air, and we can only hope.
We can only hope, but it is looking good. Now, I know that we talked about this a bit off air. You watched the first 3 episodes of The Last Dance. How'd you like it?
I did. I finally did. I know we're behind. I know a lot of podcasts have been talking about it, so we're kind of... But it's so good. It's so good. So much stuff I didn't know. I mean, there was quite a bit that I did know, but even more that I didn't. So I'm so happy that I've finally found a way to watch it.
In terms of episodes, which is your favorite one so far? Because I got mine, but I'm curious yours.
Okay, so I'm only 3 episodes in, right? I've seen, obviously the first, second, and third. And man, I gotta say that's the Scotty episode is really good. I'll say that, which is episode 2. I think that episode, like, a lot of people were really surprised about, really liked. But so far, out of the 3 episodes I've seen, and I mean, I really like the Rodman episode. Like, the Rodman episode could really easily take that spot, too. Which overall, was episode 3.
Yeah. Again, perfect that you watched 3, because that's the exact point where I am. And then after 3, I'm like, bro, I'm too into this. I got to sit down and wait for the show to end, and then I'm just going to rewatch all of it. Which is pretty much my plan. I'm 3 in. I gotta say the second one was by far my favorite. I thought the Rodman one was great, and I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was phenomenal. But in terms of impact and story, I thought the second one was the best. But I know some crazy shit's going. I really can't wait to see the one with Steve Kerr in the fight, because I can't wait to see that one. Because I've heard about that story for years now, but I don't know a whole lot about it.
Dude, the hidden footage they were hiding from us. That's the one thing I can't believe.
Bastards.
I saw it and I'm like, dude, we've never seen this before. I didn't even know a camera crew followed these people around during this time.
Exactly.
So when I saw obviously all the footage got remastered, but I'm like looking at it, dude, and like I'm seeing it and it feels like I'm there. Like that's something they did an amazing job of.
Yeah. Speaking of hidden footage that we didn't know about, this is slightly off topic, but I saw that the story came out last week. I cannot wait. And are you all so excited about the Kobe's last season? Because they recorded Kobe's last season too.
Oh my God, really? I didn't even know this.
You didn't know that?
No.
Oh, they recorded Kobe's last season.
That's gonna be so good, but so sad because that was a terrible season for the Lakers and just like a sad time for Kobe.
It got all redeemed in the last week, though.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
I mean, sort of. I think that if they wait to do it, because I think if they did it now, I couldn't watch it. I can't. It's hard for me to know that there's a Kobe episode coming.
Yeah, that's the other thing, dude. I heard about the Kobe episode in The Last Dance, and I saw a clip, and I was like, I can't do it right now.
Yeah, I saw the trailer, just to the trailer, and I'm like, I need a week. Like, I need a week to mentally prepare myself for that. And I wasn't even the biggest Kobe fan, but, like, the dude helped draw me into the sport. Because everybody knew Kobe Bryant.
Dude, you know something we need to do? We can't end the podcast, Josh, now. I just thought about something we have to talk about, too, right now that we're going to be. We got to talk about the top 100 players in the NBA list that came out by ESPN, which is causing a lot of controversy right now.
Oh, I've seen some of them.
I can pull some of it up here as we talk, but we can continue the topic as I look for it.
I only know one off the top of my head, and it was Jimmy Butler 15, and I'm sure he's mad about that. Pull that shit up. We can talk about that. Fuck it, man. We're going for 2 hours today.
It's a jam-packed episode. Oh, man.
I want to know about this.
I know they released. I found the top 10. I didn't find the whole list, but I found the top 10. I'll send us the top 10 right now, and then we can, and I'll try to look for the rest as I. I mean, if there's anything crazy right there.
Okay.
Okay. See, they released it in chunks. They didn't release it all together, if I remember right. But that's some of it right there.
Yeah, I saw that they've been posting it just going by, like, little by little on their social media.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd say top number, like the 10 are pretty much what everybody would say, or have those people in that. Have that group of people there, but not necessarily in that order for the most part. I'll put it like that.
Top 70. Was there a reason why they did top 74 instead of 100?
They did top 100. It's just okay. But
it's just
like right now. Yeah, I don't know why they. I'm trying to look for the article, but I can't find it. Yeah, they ranked 74 best players in NBA history. That's what they did. Which is still like. So I guess you're right. I guess they did. That's kind of weird. They did 74. I don't know why.
Yeah, let me see. 10 Shaq. Disagree. Number 9 Kobe. Man, Kobe's not even in the top 10 greatest Lakers, let alone players. Get out of
here. Whoa, we don't have him here to talk about that. If you click that LinkedIn bio, it has 41. Like it's the first on those.
On at number 2, perfect for controversy.
No matter what, they were gonna have Jordan at number 1. You can't argue that.
Oh, for sure, especially with the Last Dance going on.
Yeah.
I mean, you say you can't argue that. Oh, I'll argue that every day.
Well, they have Bill Russell at number 4, and they have Wilt Chamberlain at number 6. And then behind him are Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, and Shaquille O'Neal.
I'm glad to see. What is it?
Well, here let's take a step back. I think this is the more crazy, the crazier thing. So, at number 11. Where's it at? Number 11. At number 11, we have Oscar Robertson.
Ooh.
Behind Oscar Robertson, we have Hakeem Olajuwon, and behind that, we have Steph Curry. And behind Steph Curry, we have Kevin Durant. And number 15,
I think KD should be ahead of Steph.
And then behind that, we have Julius Erving, Jerry West, Karl Malone, Moses Malone, Dirk Nowitzki, and Kevin Garnett for our top 20. And then at 21, just to throw him in there, Scottie Pippen.
Damian Lillard at number 2. Not number 2, number 72.
Well, Dwayne Wade's 26.
That's good. Vince Carter's number. I have an unpopular opinion, real quick. Vince Carter at 55. Don't agree with that.
I'm a Suns fan, and they have Nash ahead of Isaiah Thomas.
Ooh. How do you feel about that?
Well, I feel like Isaiah Thomas should probably be ahead of Nash, even though I like Nash, for my own bias.
Yeah, that's fair. Here's my unpopular thing about Vince Carter, and I love Vince more than anybody. Like, I love Vince Carter so much. I love that dude. Like, historically, he's up there, right? He's in the top 100. I would not debate that. But 55, I majorly disagree with. The only reason why he's there is the longevity. Vince Carter has not been not even a top 20 player since like 2009. He
See,
spent half
but
his
I wonder
career on
what
the
we're
bench.
taking account into this list. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I suppose. But I saw that Paul Pierce is ranked at 54, and I feel like that's probably more fair. But to even have Paul Pierce and Vince Carter to even kind of be next to each other just feels wrong to me. Then again, I rate Paul Pierce pretty highly.
I mean, well, let's talk about the top 10. You know, the top 10's what we got to talk about. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. We'll get back in the top 10.
When I talk about the top 10, you know, this is why we're here. Out of the top 10, is there anything that sticks out to you? I mean, you know, they have Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell, and I love those old school guys. But do you think Magic deserves to be behind Bill Russell?
No, I don't.
Now, do you think Magic should be ahead of Kareem?
No, I think Kareem should be ahead of Magic.
Okay.
I have no problem with Kareem being number 3. I think Shaq should be higher. But the way that I determine, we've talked about this a lot, but the way I determine it, greatest of all time and greatest stuff like that, is different than the average person. Like, Shaq was so dominant, they had to change the rules to make it fair for people to play against him. You understand? Like, in terms of dominance, he was the greatest of all time. Like, legitimately, nobody could stop him. But also, he was really, really bad post. Who would you say? Post Suns?
He was bad post Miami, I'd say. Which I'm pretty sure he ended up. Where did he end up after? I don't think he ended up at the Suns after that, did he?
He played 1 year with the Cavs with LeBron, and then he played, which is weird to think about because that nobody remembers that. And then he played for the Celtics.
Yeah, so post Miami era. Yeah, post Miami era, which he ended up at Phoenix. So I guess you're right. Yeah, after Phoenix. Yeah, once he got to Phoenix, that's probably when it went down. So I think even then he wasn't even doing that bad at Phoenix.
Yeah, that's why. Like, I think at Phoenix he was still okay, and then Cleveland he was meh, and then I think but also just to even go from the most dominant player of all time to meh was just disappointing.
And I mean, the man almost played, 2 decades.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not even gonna get into LeBron and Jordan because I think it's hard for people to even kind of talk about that because as much as people like to shit on LeBron and they want to, like, there's LeBron stands and then there's, Jordan stands and all that, and that's fine. I feel like it's really hard to even talk about it because LeBron's not retired.
He's not far from it, though.
He's not far from it. But for example, if he were to go out and get a ring this year, how much would that elevate him? And then we're having this conversation later on. It's completely different. You understand?
Oh, yeah. No, you're right. I mean, the man hasn't retired yet, so it's really hard. But he is definitely up there. Undisputed undisputed top 3,
For me, yeah, I think I'm not sure if he's the greatest basketball player I've seen play in my life. But that's because I wasn't around for Jordan. So I'm biased.
Well, you've seen Jordan's greatness in The Last Dance.
That's true, but also that's made by Jordan's production team, so it's like.
But even then, but they showed down moments. I mean, they showed games where they lost, and he still scored like 40. I mean, he put himself out there. You know what I mean?
No, I'm aware of that, but also it's a documentary designed to make Jordan, like, after, he said to make the documentary after he saw LeBron and the Cavs win in 2016. So that's literally what the documentary is made. It's designed to have Jordan look good. But regardless, I don't even think he needed that, considering many people thought he was a GOAT anyways. But I think, I feel like if you made one of these for so many different other guys, I'm not even factoring The Last Dance to the GOAT conversation. I feel like you could make one of these for so many different guys, which is actually my next topic. What athlete do you think deserves a Last Dance documentary outside of Jordan? Outside of The Undertaker with The Last Ride.
Yeah, in general, like across all sports.
Fuck yeah, go ahead.
I mean, man, Tyson would be a good one. I mean, you know how much
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, like Tyson's like, dude, the best up and the worst down, and you know what I mean. And the heavyweight champion of the world at 19 years old. I mean, that is a whole. That's so much to unload. And then afterwards, after like, where'd he end up at? After all that money was gone, and how he kind of recovered from that, and just kind of how he grew as a person, because he's very different. He's very different now. And he's such a fun guy, and he's such a likable guy. Like we talked about this in the past. Like you can tell that people really like being around him, and it's not just because he's a bad motherfucker, but I feel like
this podcast amazing.
But it's because I think he's a genuine, interesting, and then educated guy. Even though people wouldn't take him for that. But I think he actually is a legitimate, like, smart human. Like he has quite a bit of knowledge. Obviously he's lived a long time. He's been through a lot. So there's more to the man, and I think it'd be interesting to hear more of his story. Even though we know a decent bit, I think a Last Dance type documentary would just elevate him even, would just be great for him, just because his story is just so amazing,
Yeah, and like starting, honestly, I feel like you could do it whenever, like throughout his career, because he was so crazy. I feel like starting his like Last Dance documentary, they could probably just start after he gets out of jail for the rape thing. You know what I mean? Because then, not like, he was such a controversial figure at that time, and then coming back, spending how many years did he spend in prison? 3 or 4?
It's been quite a while if I remember right. I don't know.
And I mean, I'm of the opinion that he didn't do that. I mean, it's not even because I like Mike Tyson. I'm just somebody who looked at that case a lot. I like looking at cases involving like celebrities and historical figures. I don't think he did that. But regardless of whether or not he did, he was convicted in the court of law. So coming back after that and taking years off, he spent 4 years off, and coming back and then becoming the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world again. That's insane. And then having the ups and the downs of the DQ to Holyfield, and going back on another run at the age like 36 or whatever, fighting Lennox in one of the biggest fights of all time years after his prime. You know what I mean? And then obviously the downfall at the end, losing to fucking Kevin McBride, but whatever. It's just and then afterwards, the running out of the money and coming back to become this beloved figure.
The cocaine cigarettes with Steve-O in the bathroom.
Like, it's just
being in The Hangover and not even knowing he was going to be in The Hangover.
Honestly, his cameo in The Hangover has to be one of the greatest celebrity cameos of all time. I don't even care. Like, The Hangover sucked past the first movie. Really, really funny.
You're telling me that also, Elon Musk
Mike
cameo?
Tyson, and Elon Musk has been pissing me off lately. But anyways, Mike Tyson's Mystery, his show on Adult Swim is hilarious. Have you ever seen it?
No, I haven't.
Oh my god, it's so fucking funny. You have to watch it. It is the funniest shit. It's called what is it called? Mike Tyson's Mysteries. It's what is it? It's a series. It's an animated show that has Mike Tyson going around like just solving crimes.
What?
Yes. He has he has like a talking pigeon, and it's on Adult Swim, and it's hilarious. There's like, what is it? I think it's like 4 seasons, I think.
That could be pure raw entertainment right there.
It has like a 96 on Rotten Tomatoes. It's a really fucking funny show. But yeah, to come back from all that, to come back from literal rape, which is, I mean, it's probably one of the worst things you could do. Like, to another person, and I don't think he did it, but regardless of whether or not he did, he's convicted in the court of law. To come back from that and to be this beloved figure is just insane to me. To come back from to being broke and to being poor and into this with no family growing up, to becoming one of the greatest boxers of all time. It's just ridiculous. But yeah, Mike Tyson is the definitive guy. If you were gonna make a Last Dance, like, documentary on somebody else, it has to be him.
What a fucking title too, dude. The Last Dance. I love that.
I also gotta watch Undertaker's The Last Ride on what is that? WWE Network. Gotta give a shout out to that because I've heard that's phenomenal.
What? Undertaker's Last Ride? When did this come out?
This has been happening. They've been filming Undertaker since 2017. Because his last match was supposed to be at WrestleMania 33, but he's not retired. It's kind of like his final search for the last like trying to find the glory years and all that shit. I've heard it's really, really good.
The less wrong.
Which
And
I
his
feel
character's
bad
changed a lot.
Which I feel bad because they're just like kind of people are saying they're ripping off The Last Dance, but apparently it's been in production for a long time.
I know, Last Dance, Last Ride, I know.
Yeah, but anyways, where else do we have it from here? What can we talk about? What's next on the topic list? Oh, Spencer Dinwiddie. Spencer Dinwiddie. I'm not sure if you guys heard this. He's a free agent after this year, I believe, or is it after next year?
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Regardless, he'll be a free agent at some point in the next year and a half. And he is allowing his fans to choose the team if they hit a Bitcoin, fundraiser goal.
Love how you chose Bitcoin, too.
Yeah, right? What an absolute king. Is this the way the Knicks are going to get a superstar?
You know the Knicks are letting loose during when the transfer window opens. You know they're gonna let loose.
Yeah, for sure. What team do you think it would be funniest for him to go to?
Funniest, like the Wizards, like just some team that's completely under shit that has like no future right now of rebuilding. Like
they're gonna send his ass to Detroit or something.
Let's just have 3 fucking point guards. We have Isaiah. We have John Wall. I mean, we're basically running Beal at the guard. Like
no, they don't even have
point.
Isaiah anymore. They screwed Isaiah.
They screwed Isaiah. Well, there you
did.
Go. There you go.
But that means you're right. That means a guard position's open.
Yeah, it is.
They'll need somebody after John Wall like breaks his leg or something.
Keeps eating. I still love showing the John Wall fat picture, dude. People don't think that's real. I'm like, dude, John Wall got fat. You guys don't understand. Like, this is.
I just imagine you just like sending it to random people, like, bro, look fucking John Wall, like right now, he's so fat.
Dude, yes, and I mean, dude.
Angel, it's 4 a.m. Leave me alone.
Why can't the playoffs start, man? I just want the playoffs to start. I want the draft to happen. I want next season to start. I want the Suns to get into the playoffs.
You know what the worst fucked up thing about this is? All right, this isn't even related to the podcast, but I wanted to bring this up, but I keep on forgetting to bring it up with you. This is the year I'm doing by far the best in our fantasy basketball league. We've done this for like 4 years now, and I've never been like I think I made the championship game and lost to you every single time. This year I'm like undefeated or I've had 1 loss. And then the year ends due to a fucking pandemic. Big Kobe's big ballers are 16-2, bro.
All for nothing though, with everything going on.
All for nothing. So, but yeah, man, that's just perfect. But yeah, I hope they send Spencer Dinwiddie. He's gonna go to Charlotte or something.
You know, Charlotte's actually not doing bad. Charlotte's actually rebuilding pretty well. No hate.
Fair enough. But yeah, man. Anyways, do you want to move on to boxing talk? Wrap up the show?
Yeah. This is a long one, so we got to.
All right. Shakur Stevenson, this was announced. He will be the first main event. We don't know his opponent, but will be the first main event on a ESPN boxing card on June the 9th in Las Vegas. I don't even like Shakur. I have been very notable on this podcast for voicing my dislike for him. However, I am more excited to see Shakur fight for June the 9th than I have been combined for every other fight he's even had. I am so hyped. But just how happy are you that boxing's coming back? And then we'll talk about the next announcement, which is even bigger than Shakur.
I mean, let me tell you this. It's not the person I want to. Dude, I really don't. Like, for me personally, like past welterweight, that's kind of when I start like not caring too much about that. And it's not to say there aren't guys that I haven't watched down there for entertainment purposes, but past welterweight, that's kind of like when I don't look too much into those guys. But for the sake of entertainment and having something to talk about in boxing and to stay up to date, I do. So like Shakur isn't the guy I would generally watch if I was just like a fan out of the blue. But since I do this, I watch Shakur.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it, but that will be the first big boxing card that's going to be happening June the 9th. Mark it down. Hopefully it happens. The bigger one, July the 4th. This one's been rumored for a while now, but he said it's happening. Ryan Garcia taking on to be determined. July the 4th, at a location to be determined.
But it's
just
happening.
and in some sort of studio setting, I've actually heard. But just how excited are you, man? This guy, We talked about him earlier this year. We talked about him a lot in terms of prospects, but to be the first big star to be back, it's got to feel good, right?
Of course it feels good, man. Come on. Feel good, look good. You know the deal. He's the next, in theory, you know, a lot of people have him out of all the young guys, you know, out of him, Shakur, Haney, you know, like that class of guys, like they rank him near the bottom. I mean, mainly because he doesn't have a title, but then at the same time, it's like, you know, the kid's getting the ball rolling. I mean, the guy's 22, you know, very young, just had his first kid, you know, 21, something like that. He's getting there.
I'm so excited for him, man. And the opponent, I'm sure you've seen the back and forth, and we didn't talk about it in the MMA section because I waited for now. Do you think it'll be Henry Cejudo?
God, I wish, dude. Wouldn't that be a fucking good shit show right there? What if Henry did it, dude? What if it was for a title? Henry comes in and like won.
Dude,
can you imagine? God. He would never let it down. He would never let anybody like not hear it. You know what I mean? He doesn't let anybody not hear it now. I imagine if Henry went to boxing right now and won a title.
He would never stop.
Would Henry arguably be the greatest combat athlete of all time at that point?
He's already the greatest combat athlete of all time.
In his eyes, yes.
No, not even in his eyes. Gold medalist. Like we can go. We're not even gonna go over all the achievements. We did it earlier, but
But think about it. If Henry went into boxing, let's just fucking hypothetically, you know, he goes down and you know, let's not give him like, you know, let's just give him like a young guy. You know, he fights Devin, you know, because Devin Haney has the WBC title right now, lightweight, right? You know, he goes and fights Devin, right? Devin Haney, 21-year-old Devin Haney right now, the dream, goes fight Devin Haney and beats Devin Haney and wins the WBC title. Henry at the age of 33 years old, retired undefeated from the UFC, gold medalist, you know, Pan American champion, you know, whatever, and now WBC holder, you know, of the lightweight title. How fucking insane would that be?
That would be so crazy. That would literally be so fucking crazy, man.
But it didn't happen.
It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen.
But it's cool to talk about, right?
Oh yeah, for sure, man. That's a part of the fun in MMA and boxing is talking about stuff that's totally never gonna happen, but pretending that it is.
Now I want to talk to you about this right now because you know there's been so much, you know, obviously Connor and you know now Henry, you know, joking about it, and I'm sure there's been Ngannou. He talked to someone else, and you know, there's been talks about Ngannou going and doing a boxing match. But you know, how long do you think it'll be a while from now that a guy in boxing or MMA wins a championship in both sports? I think it's possible, but how far do you think it's from now?
Important emphasis on the word guy there, because Holly Holm did it first, mister. How long do I think it will be? A long fucking time, man. I think it's going to be a long time, because the truth of the matter is that the UFC really, and it's not even like a boxing thing, is I feel like boxing would be willing to let guys over, especially considering boxing guys are mostly, you know, if they really want to, they can make promoters their bitch in terms of like, all right, I'm not going to fight for you. I'm going to sit out the rest of my contract. You're not going to get this money. Like something along those lines. Because the boxing guys can make it happen. MMA guys, you know, it'll have to be a co-promotion with the UFC if a guy's ever going to go challenge for that title. If a boxing guy wants to wait and come over, or like he wants to try, I think they'll do that. But even then, negotiating with the UFC is a bitch. So I don't think it's going to happen for a long time.
But you think it's a possibility though that one day we'll have a WBC champion be UFC champion, or
at the same time or overall?
Oh, they won both titles somehow, some way, you know, within reasonable time, you know. Let's put it
I think, well, sure, one day it'll totally happen. I don't know when. I don't feel like it's soon, but
or at least a former, you know, good boxer going into MMA, you know, who's a former champion, former WBC, IBO, whatever, and then going into MMA and becoming, you know, UFC champ.
For sure. I think at some point, for sure, absolutely. I just don't know when that's going to be.
It's a while from now, but you see it.
Oh, totally. It's at some point.
Yeah. Shit. I mean, hopefully it happens. I think it'd be so cool if it happened now. But it won't.
Henry goes over, does it, the absolute mad lad.
Mad lad. Like I told you, dude, we would never hear the end of it. Henry would always say he's the greatest, you know, combat athlete of all time at that point.
And nobody could even blame him.
And no one could even argue it. No one would ever argue it. Who else has even near the accomplishments that he has at that point?
Exactly. Do we have anything else? Do you want to wrap up?
I think we're good. I think it was a good one.
All right, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed Courtside Soundoff on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iTunes, YouTube, Podbean, anywhere you can get a podcast. You can find us if you want to find us directly. I'm at Josh Evans on Twitter. At Twitter, you want to find Angel, it's at Angel Ortega _01. I can't speak. It's near the end. But thanks, guys, for listening. This is a bit of a long one, almost an hour and a half. Thank you guys for listening, though. Peace and butt grease. Mouse click. We'll be back next week.